Project number 2, Company Analysis by Ivory Aguilar, Finance 695, Summer 2013. The companies that I chose to analyze is the Mosaic Company, which produced plant nutrition, Albemarle Corporation, which developed, manufacture, and market highly engineered chemicals, 3M Company, which served companies through business groups which increase speed and efficiency by sharing technology, manufacture, and market and other resources, CF Industries, it's a global leader in nitrogen and fertilizer manufacturing and distribution, and Dentsply International, which sells dental products. I chose these companies by first looking at the liquidity ratios. The current ratio, I took the industry average of the 22 companies, which is the orange line, and compared it to the average of the current ratio for the fiscal year 10, 11, and 12. As you can see, the industry average of the orange line, the companies that I chose are all above the industry average. This tells me that these companies are able to pay back their short-term liabilities with their short-term assets. The quick ratio. As you can see, the average of the companies that I chose are all above the industry average. This indicates that the companies have enough short-term assets to cover their immediate liabilities without selling inventories. Cash ratio. All of these companies are over the industry average. This tells me that the companies can quickly repay their short-term debt, which can benefit them when applying for credit. I also looked at the dew point analysis when considering which companies I chose. The ROE for this company is 16.8821, which is higher than the industry average of 11.6591. As we can see by looking at the numbers, what drove this high ROE is the operating margin of 23.039 compared to the industry average, which tells me that there's more revenue than operating expenses compared to the industry. What's also good is the financial leverage, which is 1.41617 compared to the industry average, which is much lower, which tells us that this company has less debt compared to the other companies. The return on equity is 22.9881 compared to the industry average. What drove this ROE is the tax burden, which is 75.1828 compared to the industry average, the operating margin, which is higher than the industry average, and the financial leverage, which is lower. This company also has less debt compared to the other companies. 3M. The ROE for this company is 27.7454, which is a lot more compared to the industry. The financial leverage is 1.9972, which is less than the industry average. Less debt. The operating margin, 21.5799, which is less than the industry average, which is good. And also the tax burden, which is less than the industry average. CF Industries. The operating margin is 38.5304. Financial leverage 1.9468, which drove the ROE to 27.7584, which is good compared to the industry average. Dentsply. Their operating margin is 14.9334, which is higher than the industry average. Financial leverage is lower than the industry average, which means they have less debt than the industry, 2.0998, and ROE is 14.49 compared to the industry average, which is higher than the industry average, which is good. I also looked at the market value ratios. The price earning ratio, the industry average is the orange line. All of these companies average over fiscal year 10, 11, and 12 is higher than the industry average, which tells me that these companies have high growth opportunities compared to the industry. The market to book ratio. Again, the orange line is the industry average, and the average of the companies are the orange line. This tells me that these companies are using assets efficient to generate cash flows. I also looked at the beta of the companies to determine which companies to pick. Mosaic is raw beta is 1.466. This tells me that Mosaic is 46% more volatile than the market. The other 22 raw betas were mostly above 1. They had a few that were below. So I just picked the ones that were closer to 1 as possible. Albemarle is 61% more volatile than the market because the raw beta is 1.616. Still kind of high above 1, but most of the 22 companies raw beta were above 1. So like I said, I picked the ones that were still closer to 1. 3M. Their raw beta is 0.951, which tells me that this is less volatile than what the market is doing, which is good. CF Industries is 27% more volatile than the market. Their raw beta is 1.271. So that tells me that it's 27% more volatile than the market. Dentsply is 20% more volatile than the market. The raw beta is 1.200. So that tells me it's doing 20% more volatile than what the market is doing. Lastly, I'm going to discuss some news releases for the 5 companies that I chose. Mosaic provides updates on Class S shares. This article just says the potential distribution of 129 million Class A restricted shares. The second article just explains how the president spoke about the market outlook, commitment to returning shareholder value. And the last article just explains how the Bear Point facility received a safety performance award. Albemarle's 3 news articles I chose. The first one just states the second quarter 2013 earnings grew from the previous quarter. The second article just explains how their chemicals prices increased by 25%. And the third article just announced a quarterly dividend of 24% per share. 3M. The first is that 3M contributes to disaster relief. 3M donated $250,000 and supplies to Sandy victims. The third article talks about how they built a facility in California where it added 275 kilowatts of additional electricity to the plant's total output. And the third article just explains how their aircraft maintenance division will be growing. CF Industries. The first article just says how they did an orderly shutdown of its medical hat because of a flood. The third article, CF Industry provides update on the incident at the Donaldsonville facility. This just explains the explosion that happened at the Donaldsonville facility or a few weeks ago. CF Industries Holding reports record first quarter earnings. Just talks about the 2013 first quarter earnings, which increased from the previous quarter. Dentsply. The first article explains how they gave a quarterly cash dividend of 6 cents. The second article says how their earnings increased from the previous quarter. And their third just announced a realignment of executive management responsibilities. Closing. I looked at liquidity ratios, return on equity, the dew point, market value ratios, and beta. Compared to all 22 companies, liquidity ratios were higher for the 5 companies that I chose. The RE was much higher for the companies that I chose. The market value ratios were higher, and the beta was also better than the other companies.